So everybody's making a big deal out of the first round of the primary in the Democrat. You can't vote. Superdelegates they can't weigh in on the first ballot. Only the second ballot, and there hasn't been a second ballot since, Lincoln or whatever. So what happens, now this is what I think is going to happen, is that the establishment wants Elizabeth Warren to run because she's kind of friendly to the establishment, even though she's a progressive. And so then she splits the progressive vote, and then it has to go to a second ballot. The superdelegates vote, and we get Kamala Harris or Cory Booker.
Yeah, no.
Now tell me how that doesn't happen.
I don't think that would happen. I don't see them both going that long. I think that it could be the case that throughout all those primaries, the vote is so closely split. But I don't think that's the case. Based on the polling that I've seen, Bernie has a significant advantage over Elizabeth Warren. So I don't think that she'd be close enough that she would want to, especially considering how much affection she has for Bernie. She talks constantly, positively about him and working with him. I just don't think that she would risk ruining how the voters see her by tanking him if he's clearly winning at that point. And just based on talking with now a good percentage of the people on the Unity and Reform Commission, the Bernie delegates on there, talking with Nina Turner this morning, we talked about this issue. And with Nomi, they're very excited about this reform. I'd previously, I was at one of the URC meetings, and this was more than what they at that point were expecting they would be able to get. So the reform, before it was gonna be cutting down the number of superdelegates, but they'd still be able to vote in the first case. Actually eliminating their entire ability to vote in the first round certainly isn't everything, but it's pretty strong. And I would say that the onus is now on us to make sure that CNN, MSNBC, and Fox don't still include those votes in their delegate counts, because that obviously, even before, was how they actually had the most impact. But if we can shame them out of doing that by pointing out that they can't even vote in the first round, then I think they will be pretty effectively hamstrung. And that seemed to be what Nina Turner thought this morning.
Okay, so I'm gonna answer Jimmy's question with a bold prediction, because that's how I roll. So this is the day after Labor Day in the year 2018. And I will tell you the final four in the Democratic primary for 2020. So Bernie Sanders, clear favorite, will be in the final four. Kamala Harris will be in the final four. Elizabeth Warren and Kirsten Gillibrand. So that's the four finalists.
Three ladies.
Yes, and it is the year of the woman. And so that, by the way, will be some advantage to some of those candidates as well. And that's, God bless. If you want a different result, then you go out and vote. Okay, if women are coming out to vote, that's fantastic for Democrats and progressives overall. Now, I think Bernie's the most progressive out of those candidates, but I think that he's arguably as good as anyone on women's rights, if not better. And so here's the people who have no chance. Cory Booker, okay, no chance whatsoever.
Really?
So I don't care how much the establishment likes him. See, Gillibrand's smart. She's positioning to be seen as very progressive to the voters, but a wink and a nod to the establishment, and they don't mind her at all, right? That's the smart, savvy political strategy. Booker is bumbling, fumbling. He's a serial bungler, right? Oh, my pharmaceutical donors say don't import drugs from Canada. Oh, did I get caught with my hand in the drug jar? Okay, so I meant, no, sure, I'll work with Bernie Sanders to import drugs, kind of, maybe, right? And then he says, I'm not taking any campaign corporate PAC money. Hey, that's a great thing, and I applauded him for that on air. I think that's wonderful. That's what we're trying to drive at. And then later he said, the drug companies, I will not take any money from them until later. Oh, come on, Chuck, you're so bad at this.
Yes.
You're so, there ain't any progressive vote for Cory Booker. He has no chance.
Okay.
Now, if you notice, I left Biden out of the top four because Biden is a fader. I like Joe Biden. He gives a fun speech. I love when he leans in and goes, no, listen. This isn't political. I love when he does that. Okay, there's so many things I like about Joe Biden.
Those are my favorite speeches at political rallies.
Yeah.
The non-political ones.
The non-political ones, exactly, right? It's fake, but it's a fun fake. It's like an effective fake.
He does give a good speech.
He gives a great speech. But he has never done well in presidential primaries. He will not do well in this one. The reason why he's polling next to Bernie Sanders in the top right now is because he has enormous name recognition, enormous. Lieberman was ranking #1 before the elections got started in 2004. Why? Because he was Gore's running mate in 2000. But I told you then he'd have no Joe-mentum, and he didn't. Because people don't actually like him, especially Democratic voters, especially in primaries. So now Biden's not anywhere near as bad as Joe Lieberman, but Biden will fade. All those other people are posers, the Klobuchars of the world. That's funny. I'm going to move on from that. That's not a real thing.
You didn't even put Lincoln Chafee in your top 4. That's what I like about you, the bold prediction.
That's right. I mean, I don't know if Martin O'Malley starts rolling up those sleeves again. You never know. Okay, anyway.
All lives matter.
And God knows if Jim Webb comes back to brag about that man.
He's going to kill a man.
Killed a new guy.
All right. But now to go to the core of your question, Jimmy, I think John's right. All the people who worked on it that are progressives, like Namiki Khan's, I think are happy with this deal. So that does give me some comfort. And lots of good people on Our Revolution working on this, and they seem relatively happy. So on the other hand, I do have some issues with it. I wish it was stronger. I know they were trying to get, the original deal was they were going to get rid of some portion of the superdelegates, around 60% or so. I don't know if that's better than them not voting in the first round is better, since there really are almost never a second round vote. So let's call that one even.
It would still be a couple hundred votes, I think, even if they reduced it by 60%, but still let them vote. That's multiple states worth of delegates left over.
Yeah, so I hear you. So it's tough to judge that one, but they really, the establishment went after the caucuses because Bernie wins caucuses.
Yeah,
and they were pretty effective at that.
Yes.
So this reform wound up doing some degree of damage to that progressive cause.
But that's complicated though, because I mean, when I was at the URC meetings talking with Nina this morning, there are huge communities that are effectively disenfrancized by caucuses.
Yes.
And I personally think being able to be involved in a caucus, if you can do that, is far superior to just voting.
Yes.
I come from Texas I come from there, but I lived there for more than half a decade where they do both actually. But if you work 3 jobs, you cannot go to a caucus. You just can't.
No,
so that's sort of
they made a very good case. They made a very good case for it. But just understand that the establishment wing wanted to kill the caucuses because Bernie did so well. And they accomplished a lot of their mission there. And it might be for good reasons, and it's a good and open question and an open debate as to whether it makes sense or not. And they didn't lie, they didn't make up stuff. Those are real concerns.
And they're also not dead.
Yeah.
The federal level DNC or whatever, they can't shut down state caucuses.
Yeah.
They can give incentives, which they're doing to try to get states to shift over, but they can't actually say, Iowa, you can't do a caucus. They don't actually have that power.
So, and by the way, Nina Turner was on the Damage Report. That's John's show. You can check out that podcast on our app. She also has her own podcast on our app, We the People with Nina Turner. So TYT.com/app, or just become a member, get all of our shows, including Jimmy's 18 shows on the network, the Jimmy Dore Show, the Aggressive Progressives, etc. And Aggressive Progressives just for members, TYT.com/join to become a member. And then finally, to come back around to the overall point, Jimmy, I don't think that the first round, second round is a trick for the establishment to put in Harris or Booker. I think that they reached a genuine compromise, and like I just said, I'm not sure it's kind of a mixed compromise. That's the point of a compromise, it's mixed, and it might be to the advantage of progressives or the disadvantage of progressives, but I don't think that it was some sort of trick that the other guys went along with.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, my view on it is mixed, that there's 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Johnny's correct, and you're correct that the caucuses do help Bernie. They're trying to get rid of those. I'm as a progressive, I wish we had more caucuses because it helps progressives. But in the issue of fairness, which this goes against my own interest, I'm actually against caucuses because I was in Des Moines and I remember I was at a Perkins ordering a country club omelet. And
That sounds good. You should have topped it off with the peanut butter chocolate pie that they have, which is delicious.
How do I not know about this place? That sounds great.
Because you're un-American. Did you notice how he slipped in there? I was in Texas for half a decade. That's 5 years.
That's 5 years.
It was 5.5 years. It was 1 semester over.
So when I was there, I was at Perkins. They have the hollandaise sauce on top, and I asked the waitress, "Are you caucusing?" And she's like, "I can't caucus." That's when it first dawned on me. I'm like, so every bartender, every person who works second shift at a warehouse, every waitress, they don't get to caucus. So I think caucuses are undemocratic. So even though it hurts progressives, I think it's better to get rid of caucuses.
And if
that's me being fair. That's me being fair.
That's right.
If you're socially awkward and don't like crowds or talking to people, Could be rough.
Could be
That's
rough.
also true too. But understand why it helps progressives and the upside of caucuses is that the people who are most energized go to caucuses.
Yeah. Right.
And that, by the way, is also a sign of how energized your voters are going to be in the general election. That's why there are significant upsides to caucuses, and although these downsides are very much real. So at the end of the day, that whole proceeding wound up with a big giant compromise. There was a little bit of this, a little bit of that, which I get. And those guys who were on the commission, who were progressives, worked super hard at that and did very good work in at least moving the ball down the field. At the same time, remember, the whole point was Unity and Reform Commission. It was supposed to be a nod to the Bernie Sanders progressive wing of the party that we are more open and receptive to what you're saying. What it wound up with was a little bit of 50-50. And that's politics. And was there some politics played there?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But by the way, these primaries, last thing is that they will settle things. Whoever wins will run the Democratic Party, will likely become president, will run a lot more than that. And so the next time, if Bernie were to win, or someone else that you consider progressive were to win, well, we're not gonna have these debates. We're gonna have debates where we have the advantage and they're at a disadvantage. And all they ever had was money and machine. Once you take the machine away, they're in a world of trouble.